Well, hello, friends and neighbors. John, your whiskey neighbor here. Welcome to the deck. It's a beautiful weekend. I realized that I only have a few weekends until July 1st, Canada Day. And so rather than just shoot a Canadian on Canada Day, I thought, why don't I go through a couple of Canadians that you could consider if you don't have a whiskey to celebrate Canada Day. So today we are going to look at this Canadian Rockies 21-year-old. It is sourced. I'll tell you a bit more about it when you come back, but this is a 46% 21-year-old Canadian whiskey.
3, 4.
Thanks for staying with me through the short break there. As I kind of said in the very short opener, this is sourced by the Fontana Group. And it's very clear that they get their liquid from Highwood Distillers in southern Alberta. Highwood Distillers, for some time, had bought quite a depth of stock from Potter's Distillery. And they, I think, were the source of their corn whiskey for a long time. I know that they are distilling their own work, and I think this 21-year-old is entirely from them. I, of course, could be wrong, because when you have sourced and not too much transparency, it's difficult to know. But what is interesting is I believe this 21-year-old is 100% corn. So this is corn whiskey, but well-aged in ex-bourbon casks. So 46% all corn, ex-bourbon, long age. I wonder what we get. Let's see. This nose is sweet, light, lots of vanilla. Following vanilla, we're really still in that sweet caramel, sweet buttery caramel corn. Light spicing, but really light. A little bit of ginger, a little bit of cinnamon. And a little bit of ethanol. It's kind of strange. 21 years old, but I do get a little bit of alcohol in the nose. Now it's 46%, so it's fairly strong. But you would think that would be long expired. But there's a little bit there for me. But sweet, buttery, caramel, lots of vanilla. Let's go in. Cheers. The palate is coating. Again, sweet caramel, but now we got some of that corn husk. Like a depth. So there, maybe that's the wood. It's not corn husk. I'm just thinking corn. It's got a little bit of edge of huskiness. So that's a coconut, a wood, oak, and there's a bit of spice in the palate. A little bit of perk. You might think it will just be gentle and ride off into the horizon, except there is a little bit of spicing that perks up on the edge, a little bit of grab, but not a lot. This is a fairly relaxed whiskey, and I think when I first came to this, and I'm going to compare it in a moment to 90-20, I struggled to appreciate this style. It's sweet and light and creamy and doughy and buttery, but didn't have a lot of whiskey character, I thought. But I've come around. This is my journey. These are always my tastes, but now I'm like, okay, I can appreciate that. There is still a slight kind of ethanol, light alcohol bitterness that plays around in here that I don't like. I don't know where that's from. The way it's distilled, the kind of casking they use, but there's something that keeps it from being an amazing whiskey for me. That said, I think Canadian Rockies 21-year-old is a fantastic example of a classic Canadian whiskey profile. When you think of Canadian whiskey, you might think sweeter, maple syrup, that kind of thing. And this actually aligns with that very much. But it's well done. And this could easily stand up for me as a 4-star whiskey, possibly more. It's really good. Currently for me, I think it would probably least delight bourbon drinkers, most align with Irish whiskey drinkers, and possibly interest a couple of Speyside Scotch people. Either way, if you're looking for a Canadian whiskey that is like, this is a long associated whiskey style in Canada, this is a great bottle to consider. And for 21 years old, it's actually priced okay. It's depending on your market. I don't want to throw numbers out there, but for its age and for 46%, I actually think it's a decent buy. So a natural comparison for me is from Highwood themselves. This is 90-20. 90 named after its proof, actually. It's 45% or 90 proof, but it's 21 years old. Now it's funny, it actually says Canadian rye whiskey, and this one I'm very sure is nothing but corn. Of course, in Canada, we can label something rye whiskey even with no rye in it. Hopefully that will one day change. But let's talk about this whiskey in comparison to this. They're from the same house. Are they very similar? Yes, they are. No surprise there. Very similar. But this, in contrast, I would say there's a little more richness, a little more burnt caramel. This stays almost sugary sweet vanilla caramel. Let's try it on the palate. Cheers. That is good. Now the bottle has been open longer. I've had this open for a while. Very similar butter caramel. Right now, a little less spice, a little less, I don't know what they do to get the spice out of this 21-year-old, but there's a little less spicing, a little less huskiness in it. But in that same way, it's a little smoother and a little less ethanol. So it plays even lighter, and I used to say there's some rye spice in here. Could be that that bottle has been open long enough. That is incredibly smooth. It coats, it's sweet, lots of vanilla, and only a little edge of bite. Where that bottle is right now, that is one of the smoothest 45% whiskeys I've ever had. It's there, it coats a little bit, plays a little bit in the butter and sweetness, vanilla, and then it goes away. The 21-year-old, now it's a little richer brown sugar on the nose. And has a little more aggression in the palate. Also a little more bitterness, but a little more oak or wood or slight char presence. So probably the lightest Canadian whiskey I can find right now, and I still have a source that has this sitting on the shelf at 50 Canadian, but I can't buy any more of them. I have enough. This, depending on your market, is between $80 and $100 in Canada. Really, both of these phenomenal Canadian whiskeys, in my opinion. I have come around. If you are looking for Canadian, they are not my go-to right now. They are not where my palate says I really want this. But when I relax and sit and sip these, I think these are phenomenal Canadian whiskeys. 4 to 4.5 stars for sure. Strong presence, good value. What a great way to kick off this Canadian whiskey series. Hope you're having a great weekend. Hope the weather is good where you are. And I just wish you all the best in the coming week. Take care.